Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on X, Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X. A very warm welcome to this review of Doctor Who Season 1, Episode 1, Boom! And it gives me great pleasure by Stephen Moffat. Mr. Moffat, last year you told us that Doctor Who didn't need you. I'm telling you, you were wrong. Doctor Who absolutely needs you because, Mr. Moffat, I've noticed for a very long time when you're interviewed about Doctor Who, your eyes light up. You are still very passionate about this universe, this character, and the art form that you've been working in within all your life. What did I think of Boom? I thought it was absolutely invigorating, compelling, emotionally devastating, uplifting, and a little bit funny in places. Rarely funny, but it had a mixture of all the emotions. I absolutely loved it. To be honest with you, when I heard of the concept of the Doctor standing on a landmine, I knew it was going to be awesome. I wasn't sure about the episode when it first started, first 5 to 10 minutes, but then it slowly kind of grew on me, and I realised this was something very special. This is the best episode of Doctor Who I've seen since the Moffat era. Because even when people were saying the end of his era, it wasn't as good. He was still, he was struggling. He'd been there for 6 years. It's difficult to be creative after that time. Fans are attacking you. You're going through producers because the BBC appointed producers are messing with your creative freedom. It was difficult for Stephen. But he's always put his story first. And absolutely fantastic. But, we have to get the elephant in the room out there as well. There was a lot of messaging in this episode. Anti-war messaging, anti-capitalism messaging, anti-internet algorithm messaging, in this. And there was lots of other stuff as well. Anti-religious messaging. But I don't give a shit about messaging. You can smash me over the head with your messaging, but if you uplift me emotionally, make me cry, do something to my heart, make me feel. That's why the art form was created. So you can message as much as you want. Now, I like the messages. I don't disagree with the messages in this episode. But even if I disagree with them vehemently, it doesn't matter because the episode was fantastic. It was entertaining. It was emotionally uplifting. It was everything that Doctor Who should be. And you know what? Someone said it. Was it Haribo Holmes or who is that? That YouTuber anyway, whoever he is, right? He said something that's absolutely spot on. Moffat just gets Doctor Who. Moffat has always got Doctor Who. The Doctor Dances two-parter. The Girl in the Fireplace. The two-parter that introduces River Song. His season 5. His season 6. His season 7. It's good Doctor Who. It's not all perfect. When you're making long, drawn-out seasons of shows, you're going to have some that are not as good as the others. And, Will kind of went against him with Hell Bent. But re-watching it last year, I actually got it. The Doctor doesn't like endings. And that's the whole point of that one. And if you watch it again, I think you may appreciate it a little bit more. Look, someone said to me, this is the best episode since Heaven Sent. It's the best episode since he last wrote an episode. It's as simple as that. But this is the difference, everyone. When you're in love with the medium you're working within, when you're in love with the character you're writing for, when you're in love with the universe. I even kind of started to feel that Millie's starting to come into her own, and near the third act of that episode, I really did feel, that she's starting to show us what a great actor she is, like she did in Corrie. And next week, it may be a bit of a Dr. Light episode, interestingly enough, and it's going to be all about Ruby and her mystery box. And you're going to see why she was cast. Because whether you like her character or not, you feel she's been underdeveloped. I mean, she's huggy with the Doctor already. And they haven't really known each other that long. That is a bit odd, but I'm happy to kind of put that there and say, okay, fair enough. They've only got 8 episodes, but she has felt underdeveloped. You know, when I look at RTD's other companions, from the first episode, you're feeling it, right? And the problem hasn't been Millie, the problem has been RTD with the writing. Now, and we should talk about RTD. He claimed he begged Stephen Moffat to return. I wonder how much begging he had to do. But let's be absolutely clear. Doctor Who needs Stephen Moffat. He cannot leave after that Christmas episode. Now, look, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people after this episode saying, well, he should be showrunner, not RTD. And I said the other day in a video, I do suspect that they may be running Doctor Who together from season 2. I hope that's the case. It's a little bit of wishful thinking, but I do suspect, I mean, you know, they wouldn't, you know, he's not a showrunner. He's for the first time, a non-showrunner is writing a Christmas episode, a festive special of New Who. It's unprecedented, it's interesting, and something is certainly going on. And something else I forgot to mention about the episode as well, that it's very pro-dads, which is very rare for the loony left. It really is. Look, I'm moderate left. So I'm not attacking the loony left because I'm right-wing or anything. I'm just saying they hate dads. And normally BBC TV shows hate dads. Doctor Who have hated dads in the past. And I love that, you know, moment in the episode when, the AI remains of the father. You know, it's brilliant. He saves the day. A dad saves his little girl. Is there anything more beautiful than that? Yes, of course, the mic drop maybe might have been a bit too much. The literal mic drop, the whole, he nearly even said, justice once rose, everybody lives, but he did it. He kind of did something like that. And also I think it's genius is the fact that they were fighting an enemy that doesn't exist. So as I say, Moffat is really, there is some very strong messaging, but actually the messaging was really good. The style of the messaging, people have accused him, you know, people like Nerd Roddick have said, oh, you know, there's that bit when the Time Lord, the white male Time Lord becomes a black woman, and she talks about, you know, the male ego and things like that. Yeah, but he still is a great writer. He's still exciting the audience with his writing. I don't agree with that shit either. But if you still entertain me, if you still uplift me, there's loads of times Moffat's done man bashing and this and that. You know, we're not saying, you know, this has always been a thing, especially at the BBC. Entertainment have always done that. The Michael Douglas film Falling Down is about toxic masculinity. They just don't bash you over the head with it. I mean, I didn't notice till someone on TikTok mentioned it in a video, and then I thought, oh yeah, I get it now. It's not because the world's wrong, it's because he's a toxic male. So I get what they're trying to say, but Falling Down is still a great movie, by the way. So the Doctor and Ruby arrive on this war world, if you like, a war planet, but we do get a cold open, and we see they're kind of like, they're priests, and but they're soldiers. They're priests and soldiers at the same time. And so one of them's blinded from war or whatever, and the other one's leading the other one. And ultimately he's killed because he's blind, because he's weak. And it's supposed to be a kindness. So the capitalism kind of element of it is interesting as well. It's this corporation that's funding this war, that's, you know, providing the weapons. And again, this is not wrong. There will be pro-war people who will be getting upset about this. Personally, I mean, I don't know how anyone can be pro-war. I'm pro-defense, of course. You've got to be able to defend your people, of course. That's as obvious as night following day. But there's also warmongering, you know. There was no need. What's going on in Ukraine? There was no need for that. And obviously what's going on around the world, there's no need for any of that. And so, yeah, so they stand on this landmine, should I say, and the guy and the guy evaporates, because basically the twist is as well that you become the explosive once you stand on the landmine. Great concept by Stephen Moffat. So anyway, the TARDIS arrives after those stunning credits. I do love the intro to Doctor Who. I think they've spent a lot of money on that TARDIS console room and that intro, because it's the garnish, isn't it? But yeah, so the Doctor arrives, runs out, leaves Ruby in the TARDIS. She follows on, but basically he stands on a landmine. And what's amazing here is you've got the Doctor standing on a landmine for the entirety of the episode. And I do love the introduction of the female priest soldier and the little girl. I'm not very good with kind of guest star's name. I can barely remember the Doctor's and Ruby's name, I'm afraid. So if you're looking for, a detailed review, you've come to the wrong place. I'm here to venture an opinion. And it really is, and I love that moment with the remains. So you got the remains, which is not an urn, it's actually the person. And inside there's AI. And if you say their name, the AI pops out. Very, very interesting. More messaging about technology as well, because we're getting there. We are getting there, and it's frightening. And that's what Stephen Moffat is attempting to say within this episode. So it's all very, very smart stuff. But the Doctor hasn't got any power. It's a very interesting moment when he asks Ruby to throw over the remains, and she refuses. I wasn't sure if I liked that or not. I wasn't sure should you be doing that. But if you think about it, Ruby is right, because if she chucks it and he drops and he doesn't catch it, he's fucked, right? So actually Ruby was dead right. Also, it was very interesting that Moffat wounded Ruby. If you look at his past Doctor Who stories under RTD, he doesn't normally like using the RTD companion very, very much. If you look at what is it, the Doctor Dances, he kind of did use her a lot in that. I think probably RTD made him use Rose a lot in that, but he did take Rose away from the Doctor, and she was with Captain Jack a lot, and he basically just made her into a flirt, which was interesting. I don't think he had much time for Rose. But you look at the girl in the fireplace, again, it's Mickey and Rose somewhere else, while the Doctor is falling in love with this woman. But he does use Donna Noble in the season 4 two-parter, but it's more about River Song and the mystery surrounding her. So it is interesting. And it is interesting to me that he does wound Ruby Rose. Ruby Rose? Ruby Sunday! Ruby Rose. You see, I'm shit with names, I told you. Ruby Rose. She played Batwoman, didn't she? Change of subject, I think. We're not going there. But yeah, so he injures Ruby Sunday. And it's interesting because what happens is they announce your next of kin via the AI. And the AI can't find her next of kin. Ruby's going, well, who's my next of kin? Who's my next of kin? Obviously, actually, it should be the woman who fostered her, who adopted her. That's her next of kin. So that's kind of weird. It could be that her foster mother, her adopted mother, could be playing into this mystery. But I've been thinking about the whole snowflake thing. It is an interesting situation. Could it be that that Ruby is connected to the Great Intelligence, considering what we saw in The Snowmen, which was also a Stephen Moffat episode? So that could be a thing as well. I was interested when the Doctor first went on the landmine, because we all know the Doctor regenerates, but also, as David Tennant said in the end of time, part 2, if he dies before he can regenerate, he can still die. So I get that. But actually, Moffat factors in a great twist here as well, doesn't he? Where if the Doctor explodes, it's different than if you or I explode. But his explosion is going to be huge. And so the Doctor isn't scared of dying. He's scared of creating a massive explosion. Maybe he would be able to regenerate in time if he was quick. I'm not too sure what would happen there. But he's scared about the damage he could cause. How am I feeling about shooting Gatwa? Look, it's very difficult for a new actor playing the Doctor. It's very difficult for them to get to get, I suppose, into people's hearts at this stage. His problem's going to be as well, he's only got 8 episodes, where before we were getting 10s and 11s and 12s and even 13 episodes. I think what's on his side, first of all, the last Doctor wasn't exactly the most popular Doctor ever. And so it's not like people are going, oh, well, I'm still in love with 13. I'm sure there's some up there who still love 13, and that's fine. For me, I'm still getting used to Ncuti. I think he's a very capable actor. I think he's a very, very good actor. I don't think he's playing another entity. He's just himself playing the Doctor in a way. And it's interesting how he's written. He seems to parrot out a lot of stuff that other Doctors have said and parrot it in a way that other Doctors have said. He's not exactly a very original take on the Doctor. When RTD said he wouldn't be coming back unless he was doing something different, I'm assuming because the lad is a black guy. But that's not very different, Russell. Who is this Doctor? I mean, he mentioned that he likes fish fingers and custard, of course. That's a kind of Easter egg for Matt Smith's Doctor. But what does he like? It's a bit like Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. They kind of said this nonsense about her liking custard creams, but it didn't feel real. It didn't feel, I don't know, it didn't earn, I suppose, I don't know what other way. So we've had a problem, but this is only his 3rd episode. Well, that's one of my concerns with Moffat coming in episode 3 and doing something really compelling with this new Doctor. Imagine if this episode's with Capaldi or Matt Smith. I think it's going to be an even better episode. So I think Ncuti Gatwa did great, and I think Millie Gibson was outstanding. I think she's going to be outstanding next week because something literally is following her, and it's all about her mystery box. So maybe we'll get a few clues. We're not going to get a reveal. It was in my mind when she got injured, that she died. It's just a shock twist, But I definitely think in the finale something happens to her. I don't think she's going to be a regular in season 2. I think she'll be around. I think she'll reoccur. I don't think there's going to be 3 people travelling in the TARDIS. I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe sometimes that will be the case, but we will see. So it was a very intense, exciting, kind of 24 Jack Bauer type of episode. There was a lot of tension. And Moffat creates that tension. But as he gets into the episode, it gets more emotional and emotional. And there's a brilliant moment. Again, I can't remember names, but there's the woman soldier. And the whole thing with that guy is that he likes her, but she hasn't told him she likes him. So basically, she asks Ruby to shoot her so they get the AIs, or the ambulances, as they call it, ambulance attention. So Ruby's about to shoot her. The guy doesn't know. He thinks he's defending her, so he shoots Ruby. So, yeah, and I like that whole thing. And I didn't see this coming when he says, yes, I do like you. But she doesn't say it back. Now, I don't know if that means she didn't feel the same. Maybe that is the kind of thing. I don't know what's going on there. She seemed happy that he liked her. But anyway, he gets shot and killed. And that's a very sad moment. And I thought, well, Moffat's done well with these characters because normally, very recently, especially in the Chibnall era, when we get these guest starring characters, they just feel like they're there just because they have to be there and you don't feel them. But I was feeling her. I was not in that way. I was feeling like they were characters and they deserved to be there. And I felt really sad when he died. And I felt sad for her. And the whole thing with the little girl and her dad was very, very good. And it's good to have positive, male role models. It's good to say that not all dads are bad because 97.8% of dads are good, by the way. But the entertainment industry, because of their ideology, always represent bad dads. And that isn't a positive message. But it was I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, it would be interesting to rank this episode in other Moffat episodes. I wouldn't say I would put it at number 1 or anything like that. I think Heaven Sent is hard to dethrone. He did a lot of good episodes in his era. He did outstanding episodes. I still think this falls outside. I mean, obviously, I think that Hellbent's a much reviled episode. So you probably put Boom above of Hellbent. But I think when you look at, the great Moffat episodes, it would be really difficult for me to say, Boom's better than the great Moffat episodes. And I wouldn't do that. But I really, really did enjoy it. And it's interesting because since RTD's come back, I haven't really liked what he's done. I felt underwhelmed. I felt like, and the thing is here, and I say this on social media a lot, if this was anyone else, I'd say, okay, it's Chibnall, he can't do any better. It's this one or that one. But this isn't a guest writer. This is Russell T Davies, the guy who brought Doctor Who back so well. When you know what someone's capable of, when you know someone's capable of such greatness, as a fan, you cannot accept what he's delivering. And Moffat has delivered here what we knew he could, beyond what we knew he could. It's a very good episode. Doctor Who is desperate for Stephen Moffat. He has to stay. I was saying to my friends the other day, and one of them is a writer, and I said to her, listen, I said, this is a big episode for Doctor Who. Because if this one is bad as well, then they're fucked. But because this was a really good episode, and, Stephen kind of confirmed the faith we have in him. And as I say, there's people who got very angry that Stephen was coming back. And I thought that was a bit dumb. And I think it is like kind of RTD fanboys and fangirls, I used to be like them. When Moffat first took over Doctor Who, I wasn't loving what he did. I was so in love with RTD and the brightness of what he brought. I didn't like what Moffat was doing. It's only when I rewatched the Moffat era, I kind of realised that I fucking loved it. And I think a lot of us are like that. And as I say, he gets Doctor Who. That's the thing. What that guy said on Twitter was spot on. He gets Doctor Who. He understands Doctor Who. And you see it in this episode, the mentality of the Doctor. He gets that, especially the modern, Doctor. And I really liked this episode. It was so good. And you know what? For me, I have to feel my entertainment. I have to feel my storytelling. And when I feel invigorated, it's something special to me. And this is why I get frustrated when I don't feel anything. It's frustrating that we've got such mediocre entertainment, mediocre writers, mediocre directors, right? And making the actors look mediocre because the way they're being directed and harnessed as artists as well. It's not a good thing. But after this episode, I felt as invigorated as I did when I first watched Rose. And I remember where I was when I first watched Rose. I was living in shared accommodation. I remember switching straight away to BBC Three for Doctor Who Confidential, seeing this guy, a Welsh guy with glasses talking. Who is he? I didn't know who RTD was. I'd never watched Queer as Folk. But it was that positivity. He was glad to be there. He's a fan. And that's the thing about Moffat and RTD. I've criticised RTD, but there's no question. These are Doctor Who fans, just like you and me. And you can tell that RTD is angry right now, and he's really trying to upset certain people who watch Doctor Who. I get it, but in the end, it hurts Doctor Who. It hurts the IP. It hurts the soul of the character. If the people making it are only making it to get to the people, certain people that love and watch it, it isn't a good thing, RTD. And what I love from Moffat, because Moffat used to be very, very aggressive. When he was running Doctor Who in the early days, he would have arguments with fans, and he had to come off of Twitter, sadly, because idiots were threatening him and his family. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it's a TV show. Art is important. Art is passionate business. It's a subjective thing, but we can't start threatening people. Whatever the situation is, we shouldn't be doing that. So that was disgusting, and I think he learned something from that. And I think what I like about him, and he's back on Twitter now. He's been back on Twitter since they were doing those COVID special event things for Doctor Who. And he's floating about. He's obviously seeing what people say all the time. Moffat loves it. This is what I love about Moffat. He's passionate. He does like interacting with the fans. He's very good. So he's brilliant. I love him. And, you know, even when I was kind of saying, oh, I prefer the RTD era to the Moffat era and things like that, there was something unique about the guy. He's passionate, but it's his vivid storytelling. He can be fantastical, he can be grounded. And I think this is a very interesting episode because it's more grounded than fantastical, but the idea of people fighting an invisible war, disarm it. The doctor's begging her, disarm it. I can't. It's yours. You made it. Do you get it? It's yours. You can disarm it. There's no enemy. You're fighting an invisible enemy. That's what Moffat's trying to say. He's talking about algorithms. And he is. I'm sure he's talking about people on YouTube and social media using algorithms against us, and we suck it in. You know, faith being another word for not using your brains. And then Ruby says a great thing to the doctor. He says, I have faith. She goes, but you hate faith. He goes, just because you hate something, it doesn't mean you don't need it. Or whatever he said. I think that was a great line by Moffat as well. So there's no question. Ncuti Gatwa, let's not get it twisted here. Ncuti Gatwa is a very talented young actor, but he's a new doctor. And I never embraced the doctor after 3 episodes. Never. I've told you all before. All right, okay, tell a lie. Peter Davison was my first doctor, embraced him straight away. Couldn't get into the other classic doctors after him. Stopped watching. McGann in his movie, totally embraced him straight away. Eccleston, I embraced him straight away. Tennant took me until the last of the Time Lords. Matt Smith until the Snowmen. And Capaldi, as much as I loved him, and I did love Capaldi, and I loved watching him as a doctor, he never got in there, I'm afraid. Now, again, on rewatch, I love him more than I did when I was watching it. Because this is the thing with the Doctor Who concept, right? The premise. You get these new actors playing the character, and it's difficult, everyone. Like, I tried to give this example about, you know, when we all, you know, lost our shit when Matt Smith was cast. You know, we weren't bigoted then, were we? It's not about bigotry. Look, there is some people who don't want a woman or a black guy, you know, to play the Doctor. But let me be absolutely clear so everyone understands what language I'm speaking. Because I can speak a great many languages, including Greek Cypriot. But let me be clear. We can talk about, you know, race swaps and gender swaps with other characters who can't regenerate. And I will have a different attitude there. But at the end of the day, the Doctor can regenerate in any form, any, you know, humanoid form, right? That means a black guy can play the Doctor. End of story. But it's got to be the same kind of rules as the white people. You've got to pick the right guy, right woman, you know, right black guy, right Asian guy, whatever. They've got to be the very best, everyone. And, you know, Ncuti was talking about white mediocrity. Well, was Bill Hartnell white mediocrity? I'm asking a simple question here. And maybe Ncuti would like to answer that. He's not going to watch this video, but if he did, I'd like you to answer that. So, were any of the doctors we got before you, lad, were they white mediocrity? Of course they were. So, you've got to be held up to the same standards. Just because you're diverse, just because, you know, you're inclusive casting, it doesn't mean you should just be there because you're black and we should say, oh, well, he's black. It doesn't matter if he's not very good. I don't have a problem with him as an actor, but it's going to take time for me to get used to him as the Doctor. But, so that white mediocrity nonsense, it sounded like something Disney made him say. Look, these people don't get up, right? You know, the people in entertainment these days don't get up and decide to say this shit. It's fed to them. It's political, everyone. And it's a ridiculous, you know, extreme, far left, loony left kind of mentality. Of course you can't be mediocre. Of course you've got to be held up to the same standards as everybody else. It doesn't matter where you're from. It's as simple as that. And it's conversations like that that are killing this industry. And it has to stop. And what's been wonderful about this Moffat episode, you can tell that fans have been excited for it. And kind of the feedback I'm getting after watching this episode is that people absolutely adored it. And I adored it. It was great. And as I say, afterwards I was like, yes! Because that's how I react to great entertainment. It matters to me. It uplifts me. That's why I bought my own theatre. That's why I've got my own amateur dramatic society. That's why I write, direct and perform with these wonderful people. That's why I'm writing Saving Judy Garland. It means something to me. It's not just about watching something. It's not about just passing the time. This art form absolutely matters to me. So absolutely, I'm giving Boom by Stephen Moffat 8.5, 9 out of 10. It deserves it. Just for sheer effort of trying to uplift us emotionally. It was compelling. It was amazing. It worked. More please, Mr. Moffat.